Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk, this Friday edition of Focal Point. Shore leave coming. We will give you shore leave from the USS Focal Point in less than 73 minutes. So hang tight. We'll give you 70 hours of shore leave. You are on board the USS Focal Point, our patrol boat, in which we patrol the choppy waters of America's public life, looking for the intersection of truth and politics. Our commander is on the bridge. The scriptures are nautical charts, the Holy Spirit a navigator, and I serve as your loyal, humble, and cheerful first mate. Great to have you on board with us as we make the long turn and head toward port. Number to call, 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. Where we're going to talk about what I'd like to have you call in. If you want to call in, I'd like to talk about the General Petraeus thing. I'm going to play some sound bites here in a minute. Now, we're going to talk about the testimony that General Petraeus gave this morning and some of the ins and outs of that developing situation. So if you'd like to talk about General Petraeus here in the next little while, 888-589-8840 is the number to call. Now, a couple of things just before we jump into that. Got a couple of very, very encouraging emails. I want to pass on some of these to you because these are emails from listeners who are telling us that their teenage children are listening to Focal Point. Here's one that talked about picking up a teenage student from school and listening to Focal Point on the way home, and her teenager would actually look through the radio stations until she caught the sound of Focal Point, and she would stop there and listen. And she voted in the election for the first time in her life yesterday, or last Tuesday, as a result. She downloaded the AFR app and is listening to it. And this same listener's got a teenage son who doesn't ask her to switch the channel when Focal Point comes on. So that's very, very encouraging to hear that, you know, the millennial generation, everybody's writing them off. We got to accept it. Jim Daly, focus on the family. They're gone. Forget the millennials. Forget the younger generation. We've lost that battle. It's over. Run up the white flag. No point in standing for life. No point in standing for marriage. Young generation, they're gone. We just have to accept it. We just have to take our lumps and realize we've lost the culture war and roll over and concentrate on other things. That's what Jim Daly, Focus on the Family, is saying. And I'd like to get your reactions to that as well. I may walk back through the article in the LA Times where he talks about that. Pretty disturbing, frankly, to me, that, you know, to hear that kind of signal coming from Focus on the Family, the organization that James Dobson founded and built for 30 years. Here's another email from a 19-year-old listener. Over the past couple of months, I have been commuting to community college, and on my way back home, I have been listening to Focal Point every chance I get. As soon as each of the presidential debates were over, and certainly the election itself, I couldn't wait to be able to hear Brian Fisher's non-liberal comments on it. You can get the news on Google, but you don't know which sites you can and can't trust. I've always been interested in government. Being a born-again Christian, I care not only about this country, but also the people in it. And then he said, look, I'm giving some thought even to running for public office. I don't know if it's going to be serving on a school board or serving in the Oval Office, but God's turned my heart in that direction. Now, I mentioned yesterday that the AFA, and you can go to our website and get this on our Action Alert page as well as the banner across the top of the home page. We released our naughty and nice list for this Christmas. Now, we got a whole batch of companies that are nice. I mean, they use the term Christmas. They promote and celebrate Christmas on an exceptional basis. We've got companies that are green. They use the term Christmas on a regular basis. They're Christmas friendly. You got companies in the yellow category where they refer to Christmas infrequently, maybe only on a single advertising medium, but not in others. And then red are companies that use Christmas sparingly in a single or unique product description. In other words, they might have some kind of product where you kind of have to use the name Christmas to describe the product, and that's the only place that appears in their advertising. But as a company, they do not recognize Christmas. And here's a quick rundown of the companies that actually are against Christmas that are on our red list, and that we think consumers ought to think about redlining, not doing their Christmas shopping at these stores because they do not recognize the birth of Jesus Christ. You got Banana Republic, Barnes & Noble, Family Dollar stores, Foot Locker, Gap, LL Bean, Limited Brands, Maurice's, Office Depot, Old Navy, Radio Shack, Staples, Super Value, and Victoria's Secret. So bear all of that in mind. Now let's play a couple of sound bites. That's free for all Friday, 888-589-8840. Talk about, well, let me loosen it up. It's free for all Friday. So you want to call in, we'll talk about anything you want to talk about. I'm going to start off talking about Petraeus. If you want to talk about something else, that's A-OK, because this is, after all, free for all Friday. Now, let's start with clip one. Now, we've had testimony, but it turns out that what you're about to hear, all of this was verified. This was breaking news early this morning before General Petraeus gave testimony. It turns out that everything this reporter, Barbara Starr, a correspondent with CNN, she's talking to Wolf Blitzer last night, and she says, look, this is what General Petraeus is going to do tomorrow when he meets behind closed doors with the House Intelligence Committee and with the Senate Intelligence Committee. Here's clip one.
Right to our Pentagon correspondent, Barbara Starr. Barbara, what are you learning?
Wolf, I have just spoken to someone, a source, a longstanding source, who has spoken to David Petraeus. This is someone on his level professionally. This person is directly familiar from Petraeus with his thinking, with Petraeus' thinking about what he will tell Congress tomorrow about the Benghazi attacks. David Petraeus wants to tell Congress that he knew almost immediately after the September 11th attacks that the group Ansar al-Sharia, that al-Qaeda sympathizing group in Libya, was responsible for the attacks. Here's how it goes. In Petraeus' view, there are two questions on the table. Who was responsible? And that is Ansar al-Sharia. He has intelligence, he believes, to back that up.
Okay, and this is exactly what General Petraeus did today. Peter King confirming that he went in there and said, look, I knew immediately. I knew from Jump Street that this was not some kind of movie review gone bad. This was a terrorist attack. These were Muslim jihadists that were attacking our CIA annex. And David Petraeus told him today, I knew that almost immediately. In fact, I'm looking at a copy of an email that Jeff Reed got from me this morning, my producer, that was sent to the CIA, where they report that Ansar al-Sharia claims responsibility for the Benghazi attack. That came in, I'm looking right at the copy of the email, came in at 6:07 p.m. that night, right in the middle of this attack, before they'd even hauled Ambassador Stevens' body out of the annex. Ansar al-Sharia was claiming responsibility for this attack. And this is exactly what General Petraeus said this morning. Here is clip number two.
So David Petraeus believes there's a lot of confusion and a lot of misrepresentation of what he originally told Congress when he briefed them initially after the attacks. He wants to go up there tomorrow, sort it all out. He will also say he had his own talking points separate from UN Ambassador Susan Rice. That came from somewhere other in the administration than his direct talking point. So he wants to get all this sorted out. He believes it was the al-Qaeda sympathizer group, Ansar al-Sharia, that was responsible for the attack.
And this is what Petraeus said today. He brought in the original CIA talking points, and they very clearly said this was a terrorist attack. An al-Qaeda group, Ansar al-Sharia, was responsible. That got deleted from the talking points that were given to Susan Rice. That was taken out of there. And so she was sent up on behalf of President Obama to lie through her teeth. Susan Rice was sent by President Obama to lie to the nation through her teeth, because they took out that line that was in there. General Petraeus said that was in the original CIA intelligence briefing, the talking points that we gave. We clearly indicated that our intelligence showed that this was a terrorist attack and Ansar al-Sharia was responsible. And he says somewhere between when I gave that information to the White House and when Susan Rice trotted out there and lied through her pearly white teeth to the entire nation on 5 different talk shows, somebody took my talking points, somebody took my intelligence, somebody took my information that came from my agency, and they changed it. They deleted it. And Petraeus says, look, I have no idea who did it. I don't know who did it. I don't know who's responsible, but it's somebody in the White House. It's got to be somebody in the administration that's responsible for actually changing it. And remember, Barack Obama, He took responsibility for this. Charles Krauthammer said, look, he's going to live to regret it. But President Obama on Wednesday said, look, I sent her out there. I sent her out there to speak for me. She was speaking for me. You come after her, you're coming after me. I sent her up there to speak on my behalf. So President Obama sent Susan Rice out there to lie to the nation. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that means Barack Obama lied to the nation. She was his representative. She was his surrogate. President Obama said so. She wasn't some kind of rogue official out there accepting these invitations from talk shows. Barack Obama sent her there. He asked these talk shows to bring her on. And she went up there and told bald-faced lies. General Petraeus knew from Jump Street that this was not some kind of mob demonstration. And yet Barack Obama is out there telling the UN 2 weeks later, this is all about this horrible, no good, very bad anti-Muslim movie. Let's grab clip number 3. This is also from the same report. This is the CNN White House correspondent, Barbara Starr.
When he looks at what Susan Rice said, here is what Petraeus' take is, according to my source. Petraeus developed some talking points laying it all out. Those talking points, as always, were approved by the intelligence community. But then he sees Susan Rice make her statements, and he sees input from other areas of the administration. Petraeus, it is believed, will tell the committee he is not certain where Susan Rice got all of her information. It looks like the business about the video got disproved in the intelligence community at the highest levels, finally disproved after the fact.
And that's why I called this thing Watergate with dead bodies. That's what Benghazi is, ladies and gentlemen. It is Watergate with dead bodies. Nobody died in Watergate. People died in Benghazi Gate. You know, and it's interesting now, we're looking at what's going on. Apparently, this is according to a story in the Wall Street Journal, and I've got more when we come out of the break. We'll take your phone calls, too, 888-589-8840. It turns out that Petraeus' last days at the CIA were contentious. He was butting heads with his boss, the National Intelligence Director, James Clapper. Clapper, one of the main guys out there promoting the movie review Gone Awry meme. And the issue is whether the CIA should break its silence about its role in Benghazi. Because criticism was coming at the CIA, coming at Petraeus. Said, we got to go out there and set the record straight. He said, no way. Back in 2.